The sun was setting over the hills of Kiriath Jearim, casting golden light over the home of Uzzah. He sat outside, watching his children chase each other in the dust. His wife, Miriam, was baking bread inside, humming softly. Uzzah smiled. Life was good. His family had been blessed. His father, Abinadab, had been entrusted with the Ark of the Covenant for years. Ever since the Philistines returned it, the Ark had remained in their home, a constant reminder of God's presence. Uzzah and his brother Ahio had grown up near it, always reverent but familiar. Tonight, Uzzah spoke excitedly with his brother. "Tomorrow is the day," he said. "King David is coming. We will take the Ark to Jerusalem." Ahio nodded. "It is an honor, Uzzah. But we must be careful. The Ark is holy." Uzzah waved his hand dismissively. I know. We've been around it our whole lives. It's not something to fear. It's a blessing." Inside, Miriam listened, her heart uneasy. The next morning, the town buzzed with excitement. King David had arrived with musicians, soldiers, and worshippers. The ark was carefully lifted onto a new cart, drawn by oxen. Uzzah and Ahio were given the responsibility of guiding it, Ahio in front, Uzzah walking beside it. As they set out, the sound of harps, lyres, and tambourines filled the air. People danced, shouting praises to God. Uzzah felt pride swell in his chest. He was not just any man. He was walking beside the very throne of God on earth. The ark rolled smoothly at first, the journey joyful. But as they approached the threshing floor of Nacon, the oxen stumbled. The cart lurched. Uzzah saw the ark sway, tilting dangerously. Without thinking, he reached out his hand. His fingers brushed the sacred wood. 3. The instant judgment. A searing pain shot through his body. His heart stopped. His breath vanished. In an instant, he was gone. The music stopped. The celebration turned to screams. People rushed back, staring in horror as Uzzah's lifeless body lay beside the ark. King David fell to his knees, his face pale. The joy of the day was shattered. The fear of the Lord gripped every heart. Miriam, who had been watching from a distance, dropped to the ground, sobbing. Her husband, strong, confident Uzzah, was dead. That night, the streets were silent. David refused to move the ark any further. Instead, it was taken to the house of Obed-Edom, and Uzzah was buried near the place where he fell. Miriam sat alone, staring at the empty space beside her. Her children huddled close, too afraid to speak. She did not understand. Why had God done this? Days passed. Then weeks. News spread. Obed-Edom's household was thriving. The presence of the ark was not a curse. It was a blessing. David realized what had gone wrong. The ark had been transported incorrectly. The law was clear. It was to be carried by Levites using poles, never touched by human hands. What had happened to Uzzah was not about cruelty. It was about reverence. Months later, David gathered the priests. This time, the ark was carried properly. As it entered Jerusalem, David danced before the Lord, filled with joy and humility. Uzzah's name was never forgotten. His story became a warning, a reminder that even the well-meaning must obey God's commands. Back in Kiriath Jearim, Miriam told her children about their father. "He was not a bad man," she said, "but God is holy. We must always approach him with reverence." And so, Uzzah's story lived on, not just as a tragedy, but as a lesson about obedience, about holiness, and about the fear of the Lord.